SpongeBob SquarePants would never be the same without Mr. Krabs. As the money-hungry owner of the Krusty Krab, you can guarantee that he will always be coming up with some way to either profit or prevent losing money.
What inspired you to build a second Krusty Krab right next door to the original?
Money!
After all, he's seemingly responsible for the whole town's diet, given that he owns the Krusty Krab, Bikini Bottom's favorite and possibly only burger place. So, what if I told you that Mr. Krabs was actually feeding the residents his own kind, crab? It's a pretty common theory nowadays that the Krabby Patty's secret ingredient is crab.
Money, 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 I go.
But does the show support it? Is the evidence there? Well, I think we have to take a step back and get some context before we dive into this. Let's start with the most important and complicated question. What is actually in a Krabby Patty? Great question. Almost impossible to answer. Now, for those who haven't seen the show, the Krusty Krab is the home of the Krabby Patty, a burger comprised of a 100% all-secret patty secretly assembled with
Bun, then patty, followed by ketchup, mustard, pickles, extra onions, lettuce, cheese, tomatoes, and bun, in that order.
To directly quote SpongeBob himself. SpongeBob is a master at constructing this magical burger. While the whole town is obsessed with them, nobody actually knows what the secret ingredient is except Mr. Krabs. But then it gets interesting, because the show itself really seems to lean heavily into the idea that the secret ingredient may well be some kind of meat. But let's look at an episode and see the evidence for ourselves. In the episode Midlife Crustacean, Mr. Krabs wakes up feeling so old that he can't even get out of his hammock bed. When he goes to eat breakfast, Pearl makes him feel even older by calling him her old man.
Do you think I'm old?
Well, of course I do.
When he goes out to walk along the street, he realizes a Boy Scout fish is helping him walk, and when he rejects the assistance, his arm comes off in the kid's hands. Okay, I think you get the point. He feels old. Anyway, when Mr. Krabs gets to the Krusty Krab, he finds a young customer complaining that his Krabby Patty tastes funny. When Mr. Krabs looks over, the mother says that the burger is old and dried out like that man right there, which is super unnecessary and suggests she's a pretty terrible role model for her own kid, but we'll let that slide for now. Anyway, Krabs Day is going so badly that he decides to take a gamble and see how the burger tastes before the kid can throw it away. But here's where the show gives us what may be the most critical piece of evidence of all. When Krabs tastes the burger, his immediate reaction is surprising.
So that's what I taste like.
I think this is a really interesting moment that can be interpreted in two ways. Either he's simply saying that the burger tastes the way he feels, old and dried out, or he's openly saying that this is the first time he's ever actually tasted himself. That's a weird sentence. Now, in any ordinary context, I would be inclined to believe he's just saying the burger tastes the way he feels. But the more I think about it, the more I come to believe that he might actually have some weird crab farm full of future victims for his crab burger empire. I mean, think about it. Why does Mr. Krabs keep the ingredients such a secret? Now, we can easily just say that it's a business strategy. That's pretty reasonable. I mean, KFC does that in the real world, and none of us are going around suggesting that the Colonel is selling deep-fried enemies. But I think what's really unusual is the extent to which Krabs goes to protect it. The show makes it clear there's some kind of secret recipe, and we know Plankton is determined to get his tiny hands on it. But we never even get close to working out what it is. Yet, as we just saw, the show strongly hints that the secret to the Krabby Patty is crab meat. That implies that Mr. Krabs is actually profiting from the murder and consumption of his own species, which is a whole other level of messed up. And then there's the vault. In the episode Just One Bite, SpongeBob is shocked to discover that Squidward has never actually eaten a Krabby Patty despite calling them disgusting. SpongeBob annoys him until he eventually agrees to take just one tiny bite of the patty, but it doesn't work. He tells SpongeBob that it's the worst food he's ever eaten and buries the patty to make a point. But as soon as a disappointed SpongeBob walks away, Squidward digs it right back up and eats it right away. From that point on, Squidward becomes addicted to the patties and has to find increasingly creative ways to get them. I'm gonna come back to the Krabby Patty addiction later. Anyway, Squidward eventually tries to sneak into the Krabby Patty at night and, in a deleted scene from the episode, is immediately set on fire by Krab's security traps. In the chaos, Squidward discovers the vault, a huge metal container hiding thousands of ready-made Krabby Patties. Now, this makes no sense, because if the patties are ready-made, there's no real need for SpongeBob to even work at the Krusty Krab, let alone have to actually cook anything. But that's for another time. The point is that Mr. Krabs is even hiding the ready-made burgers in one of the most high-security vaults in Bikini Bottom. That's a lot of effort to go to if it's just an ordinary burger. But as we've already seen, this is not an ordinary burger. In fact, throughout the series, we've seen that it's anything but. Pretty much everybody in Bikini Bottom comes to the Krusty Krab on a regular basis, and some episodes have even shown that going a short period without one can cause severe withdrawal symptoms. It's basically a drug. That implies that whatever the secret ingredient is something so rare and unique that you can't get it from any other food source. And since the show is so careful about never showing a fish eating another fish, it's easy to assume that it's just another vegetarian burger. But again, why would Mr. Krabs go to such extreme lengths to protect just another vegetarian burger? I think it makes way more sense to think of it as Mr. Krabs trying to protect himself from the obvious blowback that would come if people were to figure out what was in the burger. It's pretty much just down to him and Plankton competing for the diners of Bikini Bottom, and Mr. Krabs would never sacrifice money for something as weak as morals or ethics or diet. I think that's also why he has such extreme booby traps in the restaurant to protect it. The secret is not just something that could close the restaurant, it could ultimately destroy him and maybe even get him arrested. And as we all know, there's no money to be made in prison, although I'm sure he'd find a way. But let's go even further back. The episode Ugh takes place in the ancient days of Bikini Bottom, following the adventures of the caveman ancestors of SpongeBob, Squidward, and Patrick. Now, they all have different names in this episode, but for the sake of convenience, I'm just going to refer to them by the names we all know.
Pad Thai.
The episode opens with SpongeBob taking an insanely huge Gary for a walk, but Gary's slime trail is all over Squidward's lawn, which naturally outrages him. But when Squidward comes out to complain, he slips on the trail, collides with Patrick's rock, and wakes him up. As SpongeBob and Patrick play around and have a great time, SpongeBob finds something they can play with for the day: a hollow log. After a bunch of wacky adventures, the rain and thunder lead to lightning, which strikes the log and sets it on fire. But while they try to understand this magical new discovery, SpongeBob has an even better idea: starting to cook things on the fire. And one of those things happens to be a very prehistoric ancestor of Mr. Krabs himself, just as money-obsessed as ever. They eat the crab and find it so delicious that Patrick rushes off.
They're just cartoons, bright colors, silly jokes, harmless adventures. But what if that's only the surface? What if something darker is hiding behind the laughter? Abandoned cities beneath the ocean, where the sky isn't made of clouds at all. Radiation that created strange beings who believe they're normal. Families living in a world that already ended, pretending everything is fine. Every episode isn't just a story, it's a clue, a trace of catastrophe, a world after the apocalypse, carefully disguised as childhood nostalgia. The signs were always there. In the background, the silence, and the details no one questioned. Are you ready to see what was hidden in plain sight? Welcome to the theories that change your childhood forever. Subscribe if you're ready to see the truth.
Rushes off to find more while SpongeBob keeps cooking. But while Patrick is gone, the taste of the crab gives SpongeBob an idea. From the sand, he forms a Krabby Patty. And remember, this is long before Mr. Krabs and Patrick create the real thing. Now, yes, this episode is probably not part of the actual chronology of the show, but we have to focus on a couple things here that are so interesting. The first is that this episode basically goes against everything creator Steven Hillenburg once said. The producers have always maintained the rule that they cannot show fish eating fish, yet we have an episode that clearly shows not only fish eating fish, but also Mr. Krabs' ancestors. But the rule was also used as a clear example of how this theory could never really make sense, because if the people of Bikini Bottom never ate crab, why would they consume a Krabby Patty? Well, now we have an answer. They do eat crab. Or at least they did. Honestly, it kind of changes everything. Not only does this episode clearly show that SpongeBob always had it in him to become a fry cook, but it also shows that, thanks to their ancestors, something inside the residents of Bikini Bottom enjoys eating crab. And given what we've already established about the addictive qualities of the meat and crab's determination to prevent anybody from knowing what is in it, it all starts to make sense, right? It paints a pattern of something very sinister going on and an elaborate cover-up to prevent it from coming out and destroying the business. For years, the producers of the show and the late creator himself have insisted that there is absolutely no meat or animal product in a Krabby Patty. Like zero. Nothing. Nada. They've been very, very clear on that. So, if there's no meat, the most common explanation would be that the patties are made of seaweed, kelp, or some similar type of sea vegetable, and that would make sense. I mean, every member of Bikini Bottom, except for Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy, are fish, crustaceans, or some other kind of amphibian or sponge-based creature. As we know here in the real world, eating one another is just not something we do. Now, let me be very clear, I'm not saying that Mr. Krabs is a monster or anything. I mean, he's a businessman, so I guess he kind of is a monster. But I don't think he's doing any of this out of malice or hatred or any of those kinds of things. The show has always portrayed him as a savvy businessman who's out for profit, no matter how he has to achieve it. That's just part of the way he operates and provides for the people of Bikini Bottom. He saves them from a pretty bleak-looking meal over at the Chum Bucket. And for their part, they seem to be more than happy to eat as many Krabby Patties as they possibly can, which is probably a good thing because once they have a taste of that meat, it becomes totally impossible to stop. Seriously, they're shown to develop such an intense craving for the meat that they might actually end up dying if they went cold turkey, or cold squid? Anyway, I don't know. I think it's very possible that Mr. Krabs really did find some way to create an addictive crab-based burger for profit. And let's be honest, it's totally in character for him to do everything he can to prevent anybody else from figuring it out. If, for no other reason, he wouldn't want anybody else to have the same idea he does. After all, they're his business rivals. So yes, maybe Mr. Krabs has been selling crab burgers to the Bikini Bottom residents for all these years. Or maybe it's just a very well-made kelp burger created by a money-hungry cartoon crab and his tiny plankton pal. I don't know, man. I just like cartoons.